Oh boy, so this is a loaded topic. Talking about money and relationships can be tricky. It also happens to be one of my favorite things to do. I often say that when it comes to couples and money, 80% of what we do is therapy. The numbers are the easy part. Psychology is at the heart of good personal financial advice. Money is an emotional topic, so are relationships. Success comes down to good communication, transparency, and autonomy. And that's what this mini masterclass is all about. Here's a crazy fact. 70% of couples fight about money more than sex. And financial problems are one of the most commonly cited reasons for divorce. So yeah, it's pretty damn important for you and your significant other to be on the same page when it comes to money matters. I've spoken to couples around the country about money, and I've noticed something. Most of them want to work as a team. Not you versus me, but you and me versus the world. Approaching personal finance with a team-based mindset might not seem so personal. It also might not seem fair, at least not at first. Like, do you take on your partner's credit card debt? If they earn more, should they contribute more to vacations? There's a lot to unpack. First off, team doesn't mean equal. You and your significant other don't have to make the same amount of money in order to get your financial shit together. It's totally fine if one of you has a larger income or one of you has more debt. Secondly, team also doesn't mean merging everything about your financial life. You still get to have your own judgment-free stash, and they get to have theirs. And lastly, it doesn't mean needing to have the same attitudes about money. After all, opposites attract. If you're a saver, married to a spender, totally fine. It's also okay if you have different levels of interest in getting your financial shit together. If you're watching this with a partner who's threatening to switch tabs to HBO, don't worry, it's not hopeless. What being a team does mean is assessing each other's strengths and weaknesses and using that information to come up with a plan that puts you in a winning position for everything you do. In this case, your strengths are your assets and your weaknesses are your liabilities. And a winning position is successfully managing your money and meeting your financial goals. Getting on the same page and learning to speak the same language is key, because every decision you make in life, even if it doesn't feel like it's related to finances, is related to finances. So the good news is that if you're watching this, it's likely because you see yourself or would like to see yourself as a money team. You're in a great spot.
Mama said it wasn't gonna be easy.
Hot tip. You probably don't want to talk about money on the first date. I mean, you can, the sooner the better. But the best time to have serious conversations about your finances is around the time you sense your relationship getting more serious. Maybe it's when you've moved in together and you're trying to figure out how to split groceries and Netflix. Or maybe it's an unexpected life event that's brought on some big talks. Maybe it's a job loss or buying a first place or starting a family. When things start to become bigger than just splitting the bar tab, it's time to get on the same page. And if you've been married 10 years and you're still Venmoing each other for rent, you're long overdue. The point is, couples who don't take the time to get on the same page in the beginning are taking a big risk. If you're thinking long-term and planning a future together, money is 100% something you need to get on the same page about. A team approach can serve you both well.
Time is money, so spend it wise.
So, where exactly do you start this whole team approach to money? By laying out all your cards on the table and getting super honest about your financial situation. Do you know how much your partner makes? I'm not joking. 43% of couples don't know their partner's income. And of that 43%, 10% guessed the wrong amount by a margin of $25,000 or more. You need to know your partner's income, and they need to know yours. You can't make joint financial decisions without knowing what each person brings to the table. It doesn't matter who makes more money, it just matters that you know what the other makes. Once you know what you're bringing in separately, you can start thinking about what you can achieve together. Once you've opened up about what's coming in, it's time to talk honestly about what's going out, spending habits and debts. How we spend our money is a reflection of our values and priorities. It's cool that he's into collecting vintage records, but not so cool when he's bought 5 first-pressing Rolling Stone albums and can't make rent. It's especially not cool if these spending habits are contributing to debt or affecting how existing debts are being repaid. It doesn't have to be a deal breaker if your partner has debt. That's your call, but it's a different story if they're hiding it from you, or vice versa. It's crucial to create a judgment-free zone to talk about your student loans, your credit card debt, or whatever it is that either of you owe. And any conversations about debt should include a discussion of how it's being paid off. What's the repayment strategy? Is the debt being paid off at a reasonable rate, or are loan payments constantly being deferred? Is refinancing a possibility, or are larger financial issues preventing that from happening? We'll talk about how to approach debt as a couple in a bit, but for now, it's about evaluating whether these financial issues are indeed isolated events that can be repaired or whether they symbolize a much bigger problem. And if you find out your partner hasn't been telling you the truth about their income, their spending habits, their debts, there's definitely something bigger going on. Whether it's embarrassment, denial, or a lack of accountability for how their financial situation affects you, you'll have to get to the bottom of it together before you can start working together to make those money moves. I just want to say that even though I often feel like one, I'm not a therapist. And if these issues are persisting, it might be time to bring in third-party professional help. But if you keep giving your partner the opportunity to come clean and they won't commit to getting their financial shit together, you've got your answer. People assume that since they're partnered up, their goals and priorities must be aligned with that of their partners. That's definitely not always the case. You need to know whether you're heading in the same direction, and the sooner, the better. Money can feel really sterile and heartless and completely unromantic to talk about. But think of it this way. Any talk about your finances includes talking about your financial goals, and those goals are part of your dreams for your future together. And that's super romantic. So that's the next step. Once you've opened up to your partner about your financial situation, it's time to talk about your goals for your life together, big and small. Like buying a sprawling lakefront cottage in the Catskills, or taking the kids to Disney every year, or driving his and her roadsters with matching vanity plates. Discuss how each of you would like to prioritize your goals. You might have a shared goal of buying a place one day, but for you, it might be high priority, and for your partner, it might be on their radar, but not hugely important. Having that extra piece of information helps set healthy expectations of one another and lets you plan accordingly. Once you set goals, talk about how you want to prioritize them. High priority items get dollars assigned to them first. To help you and your partner navigate this exercise in an organized, effective way, check out the resources section for a worksheet that you guys can fill in together. When you're prioritizing your goals, remember your income plus your partner's income equals your total household income. And when you look at your total household income, your goals start to seem a bit more achievable, don't they? Once you've decided to commit to one another indefinitely and work together as a financial team, it's time to talk merging finances. Sometimes it makes sense to merge your financial assets in stages: pre-debt, post-debt, pre-marriage, post-marriage, etc. But generally, we encourage clients to move away from thinking of their assets and liabilities as mine or theirs and think of them instead as ours. At that point, you're ready for what we call the money map for couples. The money map is our plan for transforming your finances from a disorganized pile of parts to a well-oiled, goal-achieving machine. It was born from the fact that practically every Henry we encounter is in almost the exact same situation. They're in their late 20s or early 30s, and they've got bank accounts that are all over the place. Multiple checking accounts, multiple savings accounts, plus a couple old 401ks floating around out there. Their paychecks don't deposit where they should, they shuffle money from account to account, and while they mean well, they have no real strategy for saving up for what they want. It's hard enough for an individual. When it's a couple trying to get their money right, there are more questions. Like, which accounts to merge, which accounts to keep separate, how to handle household finances, and where to keep money for the personal stuff, like that magical laser facial, or living larger than usual on a 3-day jaunt to Vegas. We designed the Money Map for couples to help answer these questions. It streamlines the financial part of your relationship so you can stop stressing about it. Here's how. First, it shows you how to put your financial life on autopilot. Remember the reverse budget we talked about before? The Money Map helps you to understand how and where to save first so you can blow the rest. Secondly, it explains where your paycheck and your partner's paycheck should go and how many checking and savings accounts you actually need. The number is different for everyone. Lastly, it helps you visualize how to distinguish between savings goals and investing goals, which is something people get wrong all the time. The most motivating part about using the money map for couples is that you can see when and by how much you can upgrade your lifestyle with total confidence that you can actually afford it.
Mama said it wasn't gonna be easy. Yeah.
It all starts with your income. It doesn't matter if you're a single or dual income household. Every time you get paid, some of it will go towards your retirement account, your 401k, or your 403b, or your personal retirement account, like an IRA. Some may come out for things like taxes, Social Security, and maybe even a health savings account. From there, the rest will get deposited into a joint checking account that you and your partner share. We call this account your money hub, and it acts as the headquarters for your financial life. I'll explain this in more detail in a second. All of the money flows into this account, and all of the money flows out of this account. If that idea freaks you out, stay with me. Team-based game plan doesn't mean you don't get to keep any money for yourself. You do. We call it the side stash. Your side stash is an individual checking account that you keep for those purchases that you don't want to be judged for, the stuff that would drive your partner crazy. And whatever you spend your side stash on, your significant other is not allowed to comment, and vice versa. The side stash is not meant for everything you do away from your partner. It's not for grabbing dinner with your friends or buying new Nikes. That should come out of your money hub. Ideally, your money hub should be linked to your side stash account. You can set up an automated transfer every month, typically no more than a couple $100s. We talked about how to save for different kinds of goals, short-term, mid-term, and long-term in the masterclass. I'm going to talk about them again here, but this time in the context of the money map for couples. Short-term goals include your emergency fund, money you're stashing away for things that come up throughout the year, like weekend getaways and buying gifts, and anything else that might be happening in the next 2 to 3 years, such as a wedding or buying a car. Like we talked about in the masterclass, each of these goals should have their own savings account. These accounts are best suited at an online bank, where you'll get a higher interest rate than at your brick and mortar bank, so at least your money can be working harder for you until you need it. Once you've got these accounts in place, you can set up an automated monthly or bi-weekly transfer from your joint money hub into these accounts. This way, you're working towards your savings goals as a team without even thinking about it. And because you've already saved the money for these goals, you can go ahead and put the purchases on your credit card. Get those reward points, and you know you have the funds to pay for the bill in full.
Time is money, so spend it wise.
On to mid and longer term goals. This is where investing comes into the conversation. In the masterclass, we talked about goals-based investing. You'll invest for your midterm goals using a brokerage account, and you'll invest for your retirement using a retirement account. Like with short-term goals, the idea is to set up monthly or bi-weekly automatic transfers so that money leaves your money hub and goes into your investment accounts before you have a chance to spend it. Debt is common, so common. If one or both of you has debt, try not to judge, it can be dealt with. First, you'll need to figure out if it's good debt or bad debt. If it's good debt, like student loan debt, it's not a deal breaker. Student loan debt may be the reason you or your partner is able to bring in a better salary, which you're both benefiting from if you're working as a team. In that case, there's no reason not to share debts as well. It's a personal decision. I'll come back to this more in a minute. If it's bad debt, like credit card debt or gambling debt, the situation becomes a little bit murkier. If your partner has bad debt, but they're trying to work on it, fine. But if they're refusing to face the reality of the situation, there might be bigger issues that a money masterclass can't address. The best way to show your partner that you're in control of your debt and vice versa is to have a debt payoff plan and share it with them. You don't want debt to negatively influence your relationship, but you also don't want either partner to feel scared to join financial forces. From a numbers perspective, it's in the best interest of your household, aka your team, to get rid of the debt as quickly as possible. The debt guidelines we covered in the masterclass can help provide a structure for accomplishing this. We like the team approach where 20% of the money in your shared money hub goes towards paying debt each month. Another common approach is for the partner with debt to focus on paying it down while the other person takes on the bulk of the shared rent or mortgage. And what if you both have debt? Using your shared money hub to put 20% towards both debts is actually the same as each partner putting 20% of their own incomes towards their own debt. It's just more efficient. For example, if you both make $50,000 a year and you both put 20% of that towards your own debt, You're both putting down $10,000. If you combine those incomes in a shared money hub and put 20% towards your debts, you're putting down $20,000. If your debts have different interest rates, your best bet is to use the avalanche method we talked about in the masterclass and tackle the higher interest rate debt first. Using the power of your two incomes to pay down the higher interest rate debt first can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars in the long run. And if your partner has racked up some bad debt and it's clear to you that it's just a one-time situation, you might want to consider working on it together to get out of that situation as fast as possible. If you feel like it's a larger issue, then you need to have a bigger conversation. Oh, and a warning. In the early stages of your relationship, most people opt for the what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours approach, which includes debt. But once the person gets out of debt and starts making good money, the other person might see the value in switching to a what's theirs is also mine approach. Watch out for this. You've got to take the good with the bad sometimes.
Mama said it wasn't gonna be easy.
The money in your shared money hub will also be used to pay rent, bills, and student loans. After that's all been taken care of, and after money has been automatically transferred to your different savings accounts, whatever's left in your money hub is for you and your partner to blow guilt-free. These leftovers might not be much at first, but the sooner you adopt this system, even if it sucks and is kind of painful at first, the faster you and your partner will be able to break that paycheck to paycheck cycle, and the better you'll be able to avoid lifestyle creep. And if one or both of you gets a bump in salary, whatever's left in your money hub will start to grow. You can spend it however you want, or allocate it to another goal that might be lower on your shared priority list. A quick note on paying bills in your relationship. We don't believe in splitting bills proportionately based on income. Paying them directly from your shared money hub allows you to work together regardless of who earns more. Because when you link your earning potential to your level of contribution in a relationship, it becomes a very slippery slope. It's all about seeing yourselves as a team and contributing 100% of your capacity. Let's be honest, this applies to everything in a relationship, from money to chores to changing diapers, whatever.
Time is money, so spend it wise.
Couples choose to share or not share finances in a variety of ways. It's so personal. The Money Mat for Couples is just one possible system to consider. We've seen it work successfully for so many couples, but if you try it and it's not for you, there's nothing permanent about it. You can go back to your previous system. And if you're not ready to open up a joint account, or if you're not interested in having your entire paycheck go into a joint account, I have two alternative options that will still help you streamline things. Option one, keep your paychecks going into your own individual accounts, but set up a joint account for the household expenses. Figure out what your shared expenses typically look like, and then set up an automated transfer from each of your individual accounts into that joint account. This transfer can be monthly or bi-weekly. It does require a little bit more work, but it's a really good solution until you're ready to merge finances more completely. Option two, set up a shared credit card to use for all joint expenses. At the end of the month, split the bill.
Tick-tock and it's time for the hustle.
The team approach to income, bank accounts, and debt can change a bit when you throw the whole till death do us part thing into the picture. Whether you're a realist or a romantic, you know happy endings don't equal matching rocking chairs with your high school sweetheart. You might want to consider protecting yourself with a little thing you've heard about on TMZ, the prenup. Prenup is short for a prenuptial agreement. It's basically a document that lays out how you want to treat pre- and post-marital assets and liabilities in case things don't work out. That includes cash and houses and cars and debt. It will feel like the most unromantic thing at first, but if you really love the person you're with, you should want to protect them, and that's what a prenup does. It protects you and them. Going through a divorce can be brutal. If you're in the midst of it, it can be hard to see things rationally and make smart decisions without emotions getting in the way. Planning for this kind of unfortunate situation when you're in the right frame of mind shows you want the best thing for your partner no matter what. For that reason, we think prenups are for lovers. If you enter into a relationship where one person has a business or family money, it's even more important to have a prenup. When you get a prenup, each person in a relationship will need to find their own legal representation in order for the document to be valid and uncontestable in court. Prenups are also a much better idea than having separate, sometimes secret accounts in case the relationship goes south. If that's what you need to feel safe and secure, that's up to you. But it'll be more for psychological reasons than for legal reasons. In many states, if you get divorced without a prenup in place, that money you thought was in your secret account will likely be considered marital property, meaning it's fair game. It doesn't actually protect you. Full disclosure, I'm not a tax professional and this is not a class on tax advice, but I do want to talk generally about two tax topics that affect couples. First up, student loans. If either you or your spouse is on an income-driven repayment plan for your student loans, you may want to continue filing taxes separately. Most of the time, if you file jointly, both of your incomes will be considered in the calculation used to come up with your monthly payment. We've seen quite a few couples get caught off guard with this, and it creates a huge mess, which is not fun to unwind. Secondly, your W-4. When you start a new job, typically you'll have to fill out a W-4 form. It's used to tell your employer how you want them to withhold taxes from your income. When you're unmarried, it's super straightforward. But when you're married, you have to fill out your W-4 carefully to avoid getting a surprise tax bill at the end of the year. This is because while your employer calculates taxes off your income only, the IRS looks at both your income and your partner's income to determine which tax bracket you're in. Usually, your combined income bumps you into a higher tax bracket, meaning you'll owe more than you already paid in taxes. For most couples, it makes sense to fill out your W-4 as married, but to choose to be taxed at the higher single rate, so you're less likely to owe extra money come tax time. Now, your best bet is to consult a tax professional who can help you decide what's best for your situation. Lastly, I want to briefly discuss insurance and beneficiaries. Fun stuff. From my experience, young professionals tend to fall prey to the insurance industry. Insurance salespeople are really good at selling you policies way before you need them. They're even better at making you feel irresponsible if you don't get one. They'll tell you that the cost will go up if you wait and all sorts of other BS that makes you feel super guilty. Before you sign anything, check to see if you're offered life insurance through your employer. If you're not, there are really only three main reasons for considering buying life insurance. Number one, someone is dependent on your income. This could be your partner, your child, or a parent. Number two, you own a home with someone else. Having a policy that covers the cost of your mortgage could mean that your family gets to stay in the house if you pass away. Number three, you have a loan with a cosigner and don't want them to be saddled with your debt if you pass away before it's paid off. Adulting, am I right? If none of these situations apply to you, you can actually probably pass on life insurance. If you do have life insurance, or even if you have a retirement account, you'll be asked to name a beneficiary. A beneficiary is a person who inherits an account or sum of money in the event of your death. There are two main types of beneficiaries, the primary and the contingent. The primary beneficiary is who will inherit the account or cash first. The contingent is who gets it if the primary beneficiary has died. A typical setup is to name your spouse or partner as your primary beneficiary and your kids as your contingent beneficiary. You can get way more nuanced in how you want your assets to be divided by creating a will. Death talk over. Sorry, that was so grim.
Mama said it wasn't gonna be easy.
Congrats, you've taken a huge step as a couple to get your financial shit together. And don't forget, once you feel like you've got the strategies and tools mentioned here down pat, you'll be ready to take it to the next level and build a unique financial game plan based on your specific lifestyle, goals, and resources. That's when you'll be ready for the stash plan. Cheers. Cheers. Sorry. Cheers.